Sure, sounds good.
Hi guys, so we're here with Ellis Chan, and he is one of our registered psychologists at Sojourn. So over the past few weeks, months, we've talked with Ellis about CBT strategies, about goal setting and stress management. So today, Ellis is, really wanting to explore, talk with us about observable and manageable approaches to fear, which is so interesting. Can you tell us more about this, Ellis?
Yeah, so I think part of this is it's a bit of an expansion. Previously, we had talked about goal setting, and one of the things I said there was that if we're able to make them observable or measurable short-term goals, so that we have an idea of what we're actually aiming for, that also applies when we're dealing with fears as well. Sometimes the challenge of fears is that we're simply just way too overwhelmed. It's either our bodies feel really overwhelmed and you get that fight or flight in our bodies, or our minds, our thought patterns, there's just rumination over and over, and it's really difficult to deal with. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with my clients, and myself personally, is when I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I really try to boil it down to what am I actually afraid of. The more concrete I can get it, the more likely I can actually challenge it, because then I know what I'm actually dealing with. I know what that entity is, as opposed to just feeling completely overwhelmed and feeling out of control. In some cases, that being able to boil it down actually gives me something to work with. So like it gives me something to challenge over there. And sometimes it just says like, you know what, after I've boiled it down, this is something that I actually have no control over. And there's not really a purpose in worrying over it. So that's, I think, a major component of how I do work with myself and with my clients is being able to break down my fears into what the actual entity of what it actually is. So trying to go further and further into it until I have something tangible to hold. That's one thing. So for example, the other day my fridge broke down and I immediately started feeling really frustrated. We lost a whole bunch of food a long time ago when our fridge broke down. Really realistically, when I look at that, like if I'm feeling frustrated, one of the things for me is that I like to be in control. I like to like kind of know what I'm doing. And if there's a problem, I like to know like how I can repair it. So something like a fridge is something that I'm not really comfortable with at all. It's not something that I know very well. If I really boil it down, like I'm like, well, I'm really frustrated. I'm worried that I won't ever be able to fix it or repair it. But actually, I can just call a repairman. Is that really so bad? Can I just do that? And actually, the answer is yes. I could actually do that. It's not actually on me to fix this fridge. I'm like, and can they come out now? Yeah, they're available right now. So this is where I'm like, this might be like fairly inconsequential compared to a worry that you might have in listening to me, but that's kind of like how I might target that, breaking it down as much as possible.
Yeah, I like that. Like this idea of getting really explicit or really clear, getting very precise about what the fear is, and then starting to work on measurable or realistic options. And something that I've heard you talk about before is like sometimes we're sitting with multiple stressors, or there might be two fears or two options, and it's hard to, we get kind of anxious or worried, like how do I choose, what is the right choice? How do you see that fitting in with all of this, Ellis?
So I think that one is, I think especially with our lockdown, we have to make some very difficult decisions. We have options that like it's a rock and a hard place. And especially when there's heavy emotion involved in this, that might be like a lot of anxiety or a lot of anger or a lot. And between these options, nothing really seems very like good. One of the things that I'll do is, again, boiling it down is like, what are you actually working with? And it sounds really fairly simple. It sounds like I might be doing like a pros and cons list of like your different options, your different stressors. If you have to make a choice, which one do you do? But that's actually maybe it. The more simplistic that we can get to actually know what we're dealing with, writing it out and visualizing and seeing what you're actually working with, I sometimes find that that's really helpful, because then actually, instead of feeling overwhelmed, I can see like, yes, they're both equally bad options, but this one's actually less bad when I can actually break down what I'm actually dealing with. And then sometimes I find that that's helpful in being able to make that decision despite both options being not great.
Right. And then so even comparing if there's two stressors, so we can see which is more urgent or which is actually more of the issue. Maybe they're kind of wound up together. And then also when I'm hearing you speak just right now, I'm thinking of your fridge analogy, you know, or your fridge truth, I should say. And as you got more clear with yourself and you just followed down, you boiled down, you could see it's like, okay, oh no, my fridge, underneath that was actually like this fear of the food spoiling. It wasn't a fear of going to the store and buying a fridge. So the clearer we get from what you're saying, the more we can find a way out of the fear.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Because if we look at that, I think one of the thought patterns for me in that moment is catastrophizing. So if we look in CBT, we have different thought patterns about like what might be problem thoughts. And in this case, when I'm like, I kept checking the fridge, I'm like, is this cold? Is this warm? And I was going crazy. I probably was making everything warm by constantly checking it all the time. But that's catastrophizing. I'm like, there was just a general sense of doom and gloom that it's broken, the fridge is gone, the food's gone. But realistically, like, no, it's not. It's a fridge. It's food. It's really nothing over there. The issue, sorry, my child is climbing me from behind. Realistically, the problem over here isn't as bad as actually my mind or my body is making it out to be. But I can feel that fight or flight in my body, and I can feel it in my mind. So that catastrophizing, when I'm like, is it really a catastrophe? No, it's not. It's by far and far not a catastrophe at all. And it's actually, I have choices. I can actually fix this.
Exactly. I have those choices. So when you say, what am I actually afraid of? And we get that really, really clear, that's our access point into like what strategy is actually going to work for me. So this is awesome. I think it's very realistic. And we were talking about our fears with our kids and stuff right now, and navigating those things. So it is sweet. I mean, part of our issue right now is having our children present with us, and it's a lovely problem, but now we have to figure out what we're going to do with that. So getting slow and very clear, boiling it down to evaluate our fears about taking care of our children or a family as things are relaunching is an excellent strategy that parents can do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think there's one. I like following this psychiatrist, Dr. Burns. He wrote this really famous book that's been republished over and over, the Feeling Good book. And in his case, when he talks about boiling it down, it's so what, or and then, and it's just breaking it down more and more until we actually know like what we're actually afraid of, and then we can actually deal with it.
That's awesome. Yep. I like this, Ellis. I mean, this is what we need right now. We need things that are simple to break it down for us, to support us so that we can be our best selves. So thank you so much, Ellis. Ellis has a ton of videos on our YouTube, and he's just a rock star with all these awesome strategies. So feel free to check him out on YouTube, or you know, our whatever our website. He's got all sorts of awesome stuff. So thanks again, Ellis.
Absolutely.